In this lecture, I'm going to describe where to get the code for this course. The code for this course can be found on my GitHub page, github.com/lazyprogrammer/machine learning examples. The relevant folder for this course has been noted on this slide. In order to get the code, I would strongly recommend using the git clone command. I repeat, use the git clone command. If you're having difficulty using the git clone command, then as a last resort, you can simply use the download button. Here's what you should not do that I've seen students do in the past. First, do not go to File and Save As. This is not how you download code from GitHub. Secondly, please do not fork the repository. I update this repository very often, and you will miss these updates if you fork the repo. Furthermore, many past students have been confused by forked repos in the past, thinking they had found my repo, when in fact they had found someone else's out-of-date fork. For the sake of your fellow students, please do not fork the repository, and if you have a fork, please either update it or delete it. Thirdly, if you don't know what Git or GitHub is, and you have no clue what I'm talking about, please educate yourself on why version control is absolutely 100% necessary for anyone who writes code. This applies whether you are in machine learning or you are an iOS developer. If you don't know why version control is not just necessary, but a superior way of storing and distributing code, please do a Google search and read about why this is true. Since I'm not here to teach you the basics of how to use a computer, you will have to take responsibility to make sure that you can install and use Git. And guys, remember, using Git is not some crazy new thing. Anyone with a job doing software development already knows how to use Git. It would be in your best interest to ensure that you have this basic skill. I want to remind you that being hands-on and engaging with the material is your responsibility. When it's time to code, you must code. You must put your hands on the keyboard and implement yourself the algorithms we learned about. I won't remind you that you should code, since I expect everyone taking this course to be mature enough and disciplined enough to write code when it's time to do so. Simply copying what I type is not encouraged. Simply downloading my code and hitting the play button is not encouraged. If you want more information, watch the lecture, How to Code by Yourself, which can be found in the appendix. You're also invited to watch the lecture, Should You Code Along, on my YouTube channel. The answer to this question is no. My motto has been, and always will be, if you can't implement it, then you don't understand it. I've even had some students implement what they learned in Java. Remember that the code I provide is merely a guideline. It doesn't matter if I use a different version of Python, if I use a different library, or even a different language. Be like our Java friend and code yourself. Please keep in mind that this course is always going to follow the same basic pattern. First, we discuss the theory, and then we discuss the code. Obviously, the theory involves the reasoning behind why and how an algorithm works. The code lecture is simply a translation of that theory into code. If you just remember this basic fact, you will never get lost or forget where you are in the course, because obviously this is pretty straightforward. First, we discuss what we are about to code, and then we actually code it. On this topic, please do not randomly skip around in the lectures. Students sometimes try this, and it's obvious when they have because they ask questions that were answered in previous lectures. The lectures are in the order they are in for obvious reasons. So unless you already know what you're doing, you probably don't want to jump around or treat the lectures like a reference. Continuing on this theme, let's remember that since you are the one doing the coding, you can choose whatever environment you like in which to do that coding. Sometimes people ask me, why don't you use Jupyter Notebook? Obviously, it doesn't matter what I use because it's in a video. The only difference between one environment and another, if it's in a video, is that it might be a different color, which is obviously irrelevant to you. I'm not saying you should do this, but if you did not want to write any code and you just wanted to run my code, you could simply copy and paste it into a Jupyter Notebook. Remember, there's no such thing as different versions of Python for different environments. Python code works the same in all environments. It doesn't matter if you use Notebook, PyCharm, Spider, Sublime Text, Atom, or Vim. It simply does not matter. You can code anywhere you like. The most important thing is that you do it in the first place.